is a burning thing, and it makes...
Hello and welcome into the On the Farm podcast, episode number 11. I'm T.J. Mathewson, joined alongside the brains of this podcast, Jeremy Buch. And Jeremy, tomorrow at 3 o'clock Central Time, we're going to have our first minor league, for AAA at least. We're gonna do AAA. But first AAA game of the season starts tomorrow, 3:08 Central Time, Oklahoma City and Iowa. So the journey to the majors for all these top prospects that we've been talking about is starting this week, and something really to look forward to.
I could not agree more, TJ. I've already bought my MiLB TV subscription for the year, so I'm set. But no, I am incredibly excited for this year's season. It's going to be great. A lot of guys to look forward to. We'll get to that later in the show. But just starting off with something new that the MiLB has instituted for this season. They will be expanding the Hispanic fan engagement with a national event series called the Copa de la Diversion, which celebrates fun-loving multicultural fans, as it says on their website. So 33 teams will rebrand for just over 2 months. Some very interesting names in here, including the Lehigh Valley Tocino and the San Antonio Flying Chocolates. So it's just,
which are shoes.
Yeah.
Looks like a flying flip-flop.
It's a flying flip-flop. Yep. It is crazy. But that'll be some fun stuff to look forward to, and some general predictions for the year.
So we saw Players Weekend, that what MLB did last season, where they were trying to put a more fun twist on baseball to appeal to the younger generation. This isn't so much appealing to the younger generation, although I think it will in a little bit, but it's just a nice little flair that they're instituting for the season.
I don't even think it's just as much a flair. I think it's also the idea that a lot of the minor leagues has become very Hispanic and Latin American heavy, and getting those fan bases outside of those players' families to be involved in the game of baseball and enjoy the game of baseball the same way that they would in their home country, and really bring that excitement and that cheer. I remember last year I went to the AZL championship game, which I think there were probably a total of 10 people there, but it was two teams, predominantly Dominican heavy, and they were just banging on the side of the dugout. Just a lot of fun, a lot of excitement. If that can come to today's game, where I feel like America is a little bit more relaxed in that sense, I feel like it's going to really help the game out long term. And then just leading into our 2018 MiLB predictions, I would definitely say one team just to be on the lookout for would be the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, which are the AA affiliate of the Toronto Blue Jays. They are probably going to have what I would consider the best infield in the minor leagues, between Bo Bichette at short, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at third, a mix of Lourdes Gurriel and Cavan Biggio, who's Craig Biggio's son, at second, and then Juan Kelly at first. I mean, you could put anybody else at first, and that's still a dominant 3 of 4 players in the infield. But for the most part, there's a lot to look forward to, a lot of players. We're actually, MLB Pipeline released a list of the breakout prospects, one for each team. And TJ and I have picked out our favorites, which we will be getting to shortly. But TJ, if you want to start that off, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, so they hold on, I'm going to have to pull this up, but They did release a full list, one from every single team in the major leagues, prospect that's going to break out for this season. We're starting off with the AL East from the Boston Red Sox, Pedro Castellanos, and there's no question why he has been labeled on this breakout list. Every season in the minor leagues, he's had a batting average over besides his first stint in I believe that's the Dominican League, where he only hit 326. He's hit over 330 in every single minor league season, a career minor league slash line of 332, 389, 478 with an OPS of 867. That's pretty darn good. He's going to start starting this season in Class A, the South Atlantic League, and I think especially with that bat, he's going to keep climbing up the Red Sox ranks this season for a system that has been very decimated by the Dombrowski effect. So look for him to be moving his way up the Red Sox system.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a thing. I think the Dombrowski effect's a little interesting. But I'm going to go for the division rival in the Yankees and Luis Medina. He's a right-handed pitcher. He was in Pulaski last year, and he'll probably start in Pulaski, but probably move up to Staten Island pretty quickly. It was told by one scout in the Yankees organization that he has the most upside of any pitcher, including Justice Sheffield, Clark Schmidt, some better potential players in Major League Baseball in a couple of years. He was signed July 8th of 2015 by the Yankees. He's 18 years old, 6'1", 175, signed for $300,000. But he has a 75 grade fastball, a 60 grade curveball, a 55 changeup, but his control is at 45, so these stats are going to sound a little bit rough, but obviously he's still learning how to get his control. I think if he can just finally maintain his control, because he's topped out at 102 miles an hour. He throws 95 to 100 normally. 102 is his top. Just electric stuff from this kid. He could potentially be a frontline starter, but in the Dominican Summer League, he went 1-1, 5.74 ERA through 4 games, 15 innings pitched. He got hit around. His opponent's average was 270 in that stint there. Then he went to the Appalachian League with Pulaski, again 1-1 with a 5.09 through 6 games, 23 innings pitched. But this time his opponent's average was a 1.71. So definitely improvement. If he can get that control under his belt, then he's just going to keep climbing up these rankings. I think you could probably be safe to say if he can get that control, there's no reason he's not with the Tampa Tarpons, either by the end of this year or starting next season.
So moving on to the NL East, I'm going to choose one of the bigger names of this MLB East prospect pool, and that's going to be Mickey Moniak. I already touched on him in a previous episode when we were going over the NL East top 30s about someone who he hasn't really lived up to his hype so far as a number one overall prospect. Now, I don't believe he is any longer number one in the Phillies system, but a former number one overall pick last season, only a 236 batting average, 284 on base percentage, and a 341 slugging percentage, an OPS of just 625. Not great. Yes, so he is not. He is number 5 prospect in the Phillies top 30 system. Thank you for that, Jeremy. But this is a guy that the Phillies are going to be looking for to pair with Rhys Hoskins somewhere down the line in that outfield, and Odubel Herrera. So if the guy that was drafted number 1 overall out of high school because of his bat is not exactly doing this, and I think the Phillies really want him this year to take a big step forward in that growth of his bat and just becoming a better baseball player. He's going to start out in Class A. Remember, he is only 19 years old still. He turns 20 on May 13th. So they still got a lot of years to work with him, but it's looking for Mickey Moniak to kind of take a step forward this year in development.
I'm going to go with the Miami Marlins organization, but before I do that, just touching on Moniak, I was able to watch some of his games last season, and he has that kind of intangible that you just want in a baseball player, so I get why the Phillies ended up taking a number 1 overall. I think long-term, it's probably going to be him, Adam Hazley, and then what I assume would be either Rhys Hoskins or Bryce Harper. That's just my personal take on it, but he is a big part of their future. But moving on here to the Marlins, Edward Cabrera, he's ranked 13th in their system, another right-handed pitcher. He's 19 years old, 6'4", 175, so kind of a taller frame than our previous pitcher with the Yankees. He's reached 101 miles an hour, 95 to 100 is his normal range. He has a 70 grade fastball, 55 grade slider. His control is at 50, so it's just pretty much right on that line of good. I think he can improve a lot. Right now he's in A-ball Greensboro for the Marlins. Last year in the New York Penn League, he went 1-3, 5.3 ERA. 6 through 13 games, started 6 of those, 35 innings pitched. His opponent's average was a 286, so if he can start learning how to control his pitches more, I think that this kid has some great ceiling. I don't think he becomes like a number 1 starter, but I could definitely see him as a 2 or a 3, probably actually a 3 in the Marlins' long-term plans, but he could be a very, very nice prospect to watch this year. And now moving on to the NL Central.
AL Central.
AL Central. The Royals actually have a kid that I really liked in the draft. He was one of my sleeper prospects in one of our earlier podcast episodes, Michael Gigliotti, and he played rookie ball and A ball last year for them. Through those two levels, he hit 4 home runs, 38 RBIs, walked 40 times, struck out 41, so that ratio is pretty good. Had a 320 average, 420 on base percentage, and a slugging of 456. He's not the greatest power hitter, but his hit grade is a 55. His run is 65, and he has a 40 arm, so obviously that's something to work on, but he's a 60 fielder. He was at the Cape Cod League last year. He's actually the top prospect of the summer of 2016 as voted by those voters, which is very, very nice to see. He's a lefty. His ETA is 2020. He's 22 years old. He actually went to Lipscomb for college, and he ended up hitting somewhere in the 300s when he was there. He has great plate discipline, and I think that this could finally be the year where he reaches Double-A, similar to how Nicky Lopez was last year. He just needed to get that little boost of just being an A-ball. But I think there's a great future for him in this system, especially with it being very top-heavy and not a lot of lower-tier guys or mid-tier guys in their lower 15. So I think he can really, really rise. And then moving on to TJ's pick.
So for the Cleveland Indians, best team in the AL Central, I'm going to go with Nolan Jones. On the breakout prospect list, he's listed as an outfielder, but on his MLIB.com profile, he's listed as a third baseman. So not really entirely sure what the Indians are doing with him, but a little blurb on him on this breakout prospect list. Quote, beyond his impressive left-handed hitting ability, Jones boasts advanced plate discipline and an age-defying approach that has helped him lead the NYPL in both walks, 43, and on-base percentage as a teenager. His raw power is yet to translate during games, but scouts do expect him to develop some above-average power, benefiting of a big league third baseman. So those stats that they were talking about, absolutely fantastic last season. 317 batting average, a 430 on-base percentage, so showing a good walk rate, and a 482 slugging percentage. Shows Jones was really, really, really good for them. He's moving up a class this year. He's going to Class A, the Midwest League for the Single A affiliate of the Cleveland Indians, so looking for him to break out. Drafted in the second round of last year's draft in 2016, so looking for him out of high school, out of Holy Ghost Prep in Pennsylvania. Still just, as I mentioned, 19 years old, turns 20 on May 7th, so Nolan Jones definitely has been showing the tools in the NYPL last year to move up this system. A good bat will move you up a farm system fast, and that's what Jones is showing.
Yeah, and they have a lot of faith in him long term. I think he could be a very, very big producer of runs this year. I think him and Will Benson are two of the younger guys with a lot of potential power in that lineup. And then moving on to the NL Central here. Finally, the NL Central. Tyler Stevenson, he's a catcher in the Reds organization right now in High A Tortuga. Or Daytona Tortugas, High A Daytona. He's 21, 6'4", 225, so a big body catcher. His hit grade is a 45, his power grade is a 50, his arm is a 60, and his fielding is a 50. So he's definitely more defensive, but the bat is still there. Through 80 games in A-ball Dayton last year, he hit 278, an on-base percentage of 374, and his walk rate was... He was walking 44 times last year compared to striking out only 58. So he's definitely someone that could be a long-term solution to the Devin Mesoraco issue in the major leagues. Obviously, Tucker Barnhart has emerged, but this could be the next guy behind him. The Reds' first-round pick in 2015, 11th overall. He's actually one of the favorites, actually the favorite, to win the Captain's Catcher Award, which is for the best defensive catcher in the minor leagues. So that is something to look at. Actually, last year's was Jorge Alfaro. So, I mean, you've already seen what he's done. He's made the Major League roster. Tyler could be well on that way. I think he has a very, very bright future, and we'll see what the Reds hold for him.
So the guy I'm going to choose, a bit of a journeyman, in fact, formerly in the Toronto Blue Jays organization, it's Connor Green. So Connor Green was acquired by the Cardinals in the Randall Grichuk trade this past offseason. And as I mentioned, that he's been a journeyman. I'm not shorting you guys. He was with two different minor league teams in 2014, 3 different minor league teams in 2015, 2 different minor league teams in 2016, and in 2017 he did stay with one team, but not a great season in Double-A. A 5.29 ERA and 132 2/3 innings, gave up 141 hits, struck out 92 and walked 83. So not showing great control, while not exactly flashing great strikeout stuff yet. The Cardinals did feel like there was enough there that they were willing to trade for him in that Randall Grichuk trade, and MLB.com picked him to break out this season. So we're going to see if MLB.com and the Cardinals are right about this, because as we can see, it hasn't been a smooth ride through the minor leagues for him. A career 4 ERA in the minor leagues. He has thrown over 500 innings in the minor leagues. Just shows you how long he has been in the minor leagues. He's drafted in the 7th round in 2013 out of high school at age 23 now, looking to finally break through and pave his way towards the major league roster.
Very nice. Connor Green was actually acquired in the Randall Grichuk trade, and he's been something to watch. I mean, spring training, he was pretty good there. But moving on to the AL West, with the Rangers, everybody thinks that their biggest pitching prospect is probably either Yohander Mendez or Cole Ragans. I'm going to go a little different. The 2nd-round pick of 2017, this past draft, he only played in rookie ball, but damn, he put up some numbers. Hans Kraus, his ETA is 2021. He's 6'4", 180, 19 years old. His fastball grades out at 70, a 60 grade slider. So those 2 pitches are already very, very lethal. He won the gold medal game at the 18 and under Pan American Championships with 11 strikeouts and 7 one-hit innings in 2016. So his stats with the Rangers Rookie League: he had a .45 ERA through 10 games, started 6 of those, pitched 20 innings, allowed a 109 average for his opponents, which is amazing, and he struck out 30. So I think if he can take that production in such a small sample size and bring it to the next class up, I think that he can just continue his dominance in this system. Obviously, rookie ball, he needs to prove some stuff, but I think if he can continue this success, especially as a right-handed pitcher, I think that he can definitely make the team a little earlier than 2021, and I think that he'll finally get the recognition that I believe he deserves as the potential number 1 pitcher in that system.
So the guy I'm going to talk about out of the Seattle Mariners organization is Wyatt Mills, their 3rd-round draft pick last year. He comes in entering this season as the 10th ranked prospect in their system, drafted in the 3rd round out of Gonzaga. And this guy, I feel like, has the stuff to be a very, very good bullpen arm for the Mariners sometime in the near future. It might be a little bit of a stretch to say this season, but I think by next year, his ETA listed on here on MLB Pipeline is 2019, which sounds about right for him. He's got a 60 graded fastball and a 60 grade slider. And last season in the minor leagues, his first professional season, a 1.77 ERA across 2 teams. When he was with Everett, the rookie ball team for the Mariners, an 0-1 record, 2.57 ERA, had 11 strikeouts in 7 innings, and then gets moved up to Single-A Clinton, where he has a 1.35 ERA and 18 strikeouts and 13 1/3 innings. So this guy has shown the strikeout stuff that the Mariners want, and just another bullpen arm they can get. I don't think they're ever going to try and convert him to a starter. I think the stuff is too good to moving him to a starter would just kind of dullify that. We saw that with Edwin Diaz. He's now their closer, and if they never moved him to reliever, he would still be in the minor leagues right now, probably sitting in AAA with about a 4.5 ERA as a starter. So look for Wyatt Mills to break out this year and have a really solid full first professional season for the Mariners minor leagues.
And then moving on to the NL West, our last division here. I'm going to go with a team that most of the ones I've picked has had a very poor farm system overall. But Sandro Fabian for the Giants has shown that not the entire system is as bad as it looks. Right now, he's slated to start with San Jose in High A ball, which is, it's their High A affiliate. He's an outfielder. He was signed July 2nd of 2014 by the Giants, and he was signed with a $500,000 bonus, which was the largest by the Giants that they had paid out. He opened eyes to the team by batting with a slash line of 340, 364, and 522 in the rookie league last year in 2016. And then he was in the South Atlantic League, and he took advantage with a slash line of 352, 366, and 535 in the final 6 weeks of the season. He definitely has the feel for hitting and just being able to constantly hit for power, which no one really expected him to do, as he just grades out at a 50 power. So, I mean, it's nothing like he's going to hit 25 home runs. He ended up through 122 games, hitting 11 home runs, 61 RBIs, walking 10 times. Obviously, the strikeouts will come out, so 88 strikeouts with an overall slash line of 277, 297, and a 408. So he went down because he obviously hit a bit of a bump in the road by hitting A ball after going in a rookie ball. But he had that nice stretch towards the end of it. I think that he can definitely be a long-term piece in this organization, if not just a trade piece for some pitching after Samardzija and Cueto all start really getting too old. But I think that he has a lot of potential to help impact the Giants or another team long-term. He is an above-average defensive outfielder. He has a 60 arm and a 55 fielding category. I think that he can definitely make some noise in this system and probably move up closer to their number one prospect.
So the guy I'm going to choose for the Rockies is our number 4 prospect, Colton Welker, who will be starting this season in Class A Advanced Lancaster, which, according to this little blurb here under his breakout listing, is arguably the best hitting environment in the minor leagues. And this guy is coming off a season where he hit 350 with a 401 on-base percentage and a 500 slugging percentage for OPS over 900 in 254 at-bats last season. So I think this guy's primed for a breakout season for the Rockies. Shoot him up probably closer to the top 2 or top 3 of the Rockies' their top 30 prospects. A 4th-round pick of Colorado last year out of Parkland High School, just age 20. So someone to advance now. Advance up the Rocky system. Now, I know the Rockies up in the major leagues do have 2 very solid members of the left side of the infield, Nolan Arenado, Trevor Story, with DJ LeMahieu at second. So a switch to first base could be an option for Welker if he wants to get to the majors as fast as possible.
I would agree with you there, TJ. Long term, my thought of what the Rockies want to do is obviously if Bud Black ever wants to pinch hit him, then obviously he'll be in the game. But Ryan McMahon has not gotten what he deserves, I feel like, in the major leagues. And I think it's going to end up being some form of Ryan McMahon / Colton Welker, maybe even a platoon role as of first coming up. But I think that it's going to be Brendan Rodgers, Trevor Story in some order, second or short, and then third base still being Nolan Arenado, pending he doesn't leave in free agency in 2019 with the Charlie Blackmon extension. I don't think he will, but a lot of long-term good stuff for the Rockies long-term. And then we actually had the pleasure this past Friday of interviewing what I would consider one of the better defensive prospects in baseball in the Seattle Mariners' first-round pick, Evan White.
Yeah, it was really great. He was a real pleasure talking to. If you want to take a listen to the interview, you can. We're going to put it in. Actually, you can listen to it right here. You've gone through about, I'd say, most of a year in the minor leagues, transitioning from college to the pros. How has that transition been for you, and how well are you adjusting to it?
I think it's been good so far. I think the University of Kentucky and the staff there really prepared me for pro ball and everything like that. So, like I said, I'm trying to learn every single day and learn about my personal routine and stuff like that. But like I said, Kentucky, I think, really prepared me for pro ball so far.
And then, obviously, being a first-round pick, you kind of get a little bit of special treatment going to Safeco Field. What was that experience like for you?
It was incredible. Growing up watching Robinson Cano, Nelson Cruz, guys like that, and being able to hit BP with them was absolutely incredible. It was, like I said, it was incredible. Enjoyed every second of it, and hopefully I get to do it again someday with them.
So this year you got to experience quite a bit of big league spring training. I saw you myself in some of the games. Talk a little bit about that experience, like just seeing how the major league guys prepare for it, like every day, even in spring training, such stuff you can kind of take away from that.
Yeah, it was definitely really cool. My big thing this spring has just been trying to learn as much as possible, and getting to watch the best in the world prepare and stuff like that was definitely huge for me. So I enjoyed every bit of it. Growing up watching guys and being able to play against them and watch them play right in front of me from a dugout was definitely really cool. So I enjoyed every second of it and learned a lot.
And then, is there a major league player that's been like a good influence or a mentor for you through this spring training, just the whole process of being in the minors?
There's definitely been a few guys, but the first one that comes to mind was D. Gordon, and just seeing how good of a teammate he is to every single player he comes across. It doesn't matter who you are, if it's Nelson Cruz, guys like myself, the minor league guys coming up, he's going to have conversation with you, he's going to talk to you, and he's going to throw advice out whenever he can. So I think he was a big influence on me as well as the rest of the guys.
So with this offseason, is there one thing about your game that you're trying to work on the most?
Obviously power is something that I want to, get more of, but also, being a little more selective at the plate and being more disciplined and swinging at pitches that, I can drive and do some damage with. The biggest thing this offseason for me was, get my body right and, try to, have a healthy full season.
And then do you happen to know where you think the Mariners will place you this season, like what level of the minors?
Yeah, we actually found out yesterday, and I'll be in Modesto, California, so hi.
So with that, how would you feel about, I wouldn't say there was, wasn't necessarily, it wasn't like definite, but how would you feel about kind of being like aggressive, sort of terminology, like aggressively assigned, like maybe start in Double-A, which you won't, you'll be in High A, but could you see yourself, and would you be okay with maybe ending up at Triple-A at the end of the year if all goes right, you stay healthy, start hitting well, and stuff like that?
I don't really look too far into the future, but I'm always up for a challenge, and I try to go out each and every day and try to get better and help the team win, whatever way that might be. So if that's the challenge this year and trying to push me as fast as possible, then so be it. If it's where I have to be in High A all year, so be it. Just go out each and every day and try to get better, and whatever happens. It's not up to me at the end of the day. So.
And then the Mariners have hired a high-performance coach in Lorena Martin. How has that new system kind of impacted you as a player, as a person?
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely helped out, not only me, but the rest of the organization with our bodies and, getting that preparation and having that routine going into it. A lot of guys have been doing this for a long time, so they've had their preparation and routine for years. But, for us younger guys, finding that preparation, finding that routine that's going to stick with us throughout the years is really going to help, I believe. So I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to, hopefully working with her and the rest of the staff more.
So I know you played outfield on Team USA, right? Correct? Yeah. So Mariners at first base right now, a couple of young guys up there. Would to move through the organization levels faster, would you consider a move to the outfield, even though you're primarily at first base? Would you consider that?
Yeah, I mean, I do whatever the organization needs me to do. I know we have a ton of young outfielders as well, so that definitely it could be a possibility though. Still, you never know. So, but like I said, I'll do whatever it takes to help the organization win.
Just kind of taking a different turn, throughout your career as a baseball player, who was probably the toughest pitcher you faced?
That's a really good question. Being in college and playing in the SEC, I feel like I faced a lot of really top competition. But I always say Kyle Wright, he's one of my favorite pitchers to watch and compete against. He's got great stuff, and he throws hard. He's got 4 different pitches he can throw for a strike any time. So I definitely say Kyle Wright.
So pregame, what's your go-to playlist and sort of your go-to like pregame meal too?
Pre-game meal, they provide those for us right now. But if I'm getting something on my own, it's typically Chipotle. I'll switch it up once in a while, but sometimes sandwich. But pre-game playlist, it kind of switches up. Just depends on the day. It could go anywhere from country to rap to some Christian music too. So whatever I'm feeling that day, it switches up. Sometimes I throw it on shuffle. Whatever happens. So not a strict pre-game ritual guy.
So Jeremy, Evan White, what was probably talking to him? What was probably the biggest thing you took away from him, like his preparation or something along that line?
Yeah, he's just such a humble kid. Like that was the one thing in both the John Duplantier interview and now with Evan. They're both just so humble, and they know that obviously they have the stuff to compete in any level of baseball, but the ability to just kind of sit back and really not let the fame go to your head. Because obviously being a first-round pick, he got the Safeco treatment, all that. We actually found out he'll be starting in, as you probably heard, Modesto.
Yeah, which is a great hitting environment for him. So if he wants to build off of that strong first professional season, although he did only play 10 games, that's going to be a good place to start, and I could see him ending up Double-A, maybe even Triple-A by the end of the season if he moves well. That glove alone will help him move up the Mariners minor league system fast. And with the system not being as strong as it possibly is, I think it's great. It was an absolute pleasure talking to him. He was a good interview, and it was great. Thank Evan for that.
Yeah, honestly, he was awesome. And then we're just gonna touch on a few more things here. Obviously, no one wants to hear about it, but some significant injuries to some top prospects. The first being Rays number 9 prospect Garrett Whitley will miss the 2018 season as he just underwent surgery for a torn labrum last week. It's very sad to see. Obviously, the Rays have one of the better farm systems, the top 10 farm system in baseball. And it looks as though his quote was, "Labrum surgery today. Tough times only make the strong even stronger. Best believe I'm going to come back better than ever." So, I mean, he looks to be all right. He was the 13th pick in the 2015 draft. Spent all of last year with Class A Bowling Green, where he slashed .249, .362, and .430 with 13 homers, 61 RBIs, and 21 stolen bases. He also played in the ABL, the Australian Baseball League, in the winter, slashing .265, .384, and .503 in 185 at-bats. It's really, really sad as the Rays already lost Brent Honeywell and Jose De Leon. But you have any thoughts on that, TJ?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the direction the Rays are going in. I know they're kind of, I wouldn't say they're fully in tank mode, but they're kind of heading in that direction. We saw them. They traded Evan Longoria. They let Logan Morrison go. They traded Corey Dickerson away. So they're kind of transitioning to kind of a new squad. So I'd say it sucks that their prospects are getting injured. I was really excited to see Brett Honeywell myself in the major leagues. And it's just unfortunate that the injuries keep piling up for them to keep put an impact on their 2018 season.
And then, actually, speaking of John Duplantier, right now, the D-backs right-hander is going to start an extended spring training with a hamstring injury. He will most likely be in Double-A Jackson. It's not really listed online, but from our interview, he said he's likely to head to Double-A Jackson, which means that he'll start to hit as well, obviously being in the NL. So that's something to look forward to. I mean, a pipeline pitcher of the year last year and the best pitching prospect in the D-back system. What do you think this means long-term?
I don't think it means much long-term. He's bounced back from injuries before. We saw him bounce back from an injury in college. We saw him bounce back from an injury his first professional season, and all he did was come back and win minor league pitcher of the year. So I see this barely affecting him, and especially the shoulder injury he had in college. We know how devastating shoulder injuries can be to pitchers. For one example, Danny Holtzen, former number 2 overall pick, is now he's trying to make a comeback, but for a period of time he was retired because that shoulder injury that he had after he was drafted by the Mariners just kept coming back to nag him. So if he can get through that, I think he can get through any other injury. I think he'll be all right.
I agree. And then just the last big injury we ended up seeing was the Red Sox number 2 prospect, Jay Groom, will start the year on the DL with a flexor strain. I mean, he's kind of had injury issues. He was supposed to be the number 1 overall pick in his draft. He was 12th overall in 2016, and he was only limited to 55 1/3 last season innings pitched. And I don't know. I don't see it here. Like, people keep saying, oh, he's the stuff to dominate, but if he's not on the field, and he really hasn't been throughout his career, I don't see him having that long-term impact for this team. But again, I don't like to see players injured. I hope the best for him long-term. Flexor strains are not fun. He's supposed to return to the mound within a few weeks, according to the Boston Globe report. But, he's already been sidelined for a lat strain and a forearm strain, and now this. It doesn't look great long-term unless he maybe gets like a high-performance coach or something. And then just one last thing to touch on, no more injuries, but Hunter Green will still just be pitching for right now. Obviously, we've seen Shohei Ohtani, who actually just hit his 2nd home run as a major leaguer today.
Just now,
yeah.
In fact, off of reigning Cy Young Award winner Corey Kluber.
That's really, really crazy, but right now the Reds want to take it slow, similar to the way the Rays are doing it with Brendan McKay. He's purely hitting, as Green will be purely pitching. It's definitely something to look at, but, I mean, he's obviously going to hit at some point once he hits Double-A. Once he hits Double-A, he has to hit, being a National League player, so I think it's the perfect scenario for him. Make sure he works on one thing, and then he'll improve on the second.
So here's what I see from this. So Hunter Green, in his senior year of high school before he entered the major leagues, only pitched 28 total innings. So they need to stretch him out as much as they possibly can before they start getting him some more consistent ABs. I believe only threw about 120-ish innings in high school, so they're gonna need to just. It's a full-time pitching. Got to get him in that like sort of pitching mindset first, and get him some more consistent starts so he gets comfortable on the mound, and then he can just go pick up a bat, not worry about having to field, and he'll reach the major leagues anyway.
And then there's just one thing we saw. It was a very, very cool thing, at least in my mind. The Kansas City Royals have signed the first pro baseball player with autism. His name is Tariq El Abour, and he's definitely a diverse player nonetheless, but he was raised in San Marino, California. He signed his deal with the Royals after spending the last 2 years in the Empire Pro Baseball League. He was named the Rookie of the Year there, batting .323 in 122 plate appearances in 2017. He won a championship with the Plattsburgh Redbirds, but he is not an elite prospect by any sense, but just the idea that he's made it, he'll be the first player or prospect in baseball with autism. I think it's a big step in the way that the game is changing and allowing, not even just allowing, but having everyone included in every way, shape, and form is very, very important to any sport. And the fact that this has already started. Autism is actually a condition that affects 3.5 million Americans in a variety of ways, and his presence, I think, in baseball is just a great inspiration to anybody else looking at this.
Yeah, absolutely, and it'll give kids with a chance who didn't think that it would be possible a chance to do what they want, do what they love, and I think it's a good step in the right direction. MLB, which MLB I would say is probably the most diverse of the 4 major sports here in America, and expanding that. Not just race lines, but then also disabilities and stuff like that. So I think this is the step in the right direction for the major leagues. With that, I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the On the Farm podcast. You can check out all of our episodes on our SoundCloud and our YouTube. Keep up to date with our Twitter page and such. Look out for interviews in the future. With that, for myself, T.J. Mathewson, and my co-host, Jeremy Buch, we thank you all for listening. Be sure to tune in next time.
I fell into a burning ring of fire. I went down, 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 and the flames went higher. And it burns, burns,